I want you to picture something with me. Picture yourself standing on the marble steps of a house you poured 12 years of your life into. A house where you hosted charity galas, where you laughed with friends who weren't really friends, where you slept next to a man who stopped seeing you years before he asked for the divorce. Now picture yourself holding 2 suitcases. Everything you own condensed into luggage you bought on sale because your credit cards were frozen 3 weeks ago. That was me. That was Sophia Hartfield on a Tuesday morning in September, walking away from everything I thought defined me. The photographers were already there. Richard made sure of that. I could see him through the bay window on the 2nd floor, his arm wrapped around Vanessa's waist. She was 26, blonde, and wearing the silk robe I used to wear. They were watching me leave like it was performance art. Richard had his phone out, probably texting his lawyer, probably laughing. "Mrs. Hartfield, Sophia, over here." A man with a camera shoved it in my face. "How does it feel to lose everything?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. My throat was raw from crying the night before, and if I opened my mouth, I was afraid I'd scream. So I kept walking, my heels clicking against the stone driveway, my hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped my suitcase twice. "Sources say your husband's legal team destroyed you in court. Is that true? Sophia, did you sign a prenup? Is it true you're homeless?" That last one made me stop. Not homeless. Not yet. I had a motel room booked in Newark for the next week. After that, I had no idea. My parents wouldn't take my calls. My sister Diane told me I made my bed and hung up before I could ask her for help. My friends, Richard's friends really, had all vanished the moment the divorce papers were filed. I turned back one last time. Richard was still watching. He raised his coffee mug in a mock toast. Vanessa laughed, her hand on his chest, and I felt something inside me crack so deeply I wasn't sure I'd ever be whole again. I got into the Uber. The driver didn't say anything. He probably recognized me from the headlines. "Socialite left with nothing, the fall of Sophia Hartfield." That was yesterday's New York Post. Today's would probably be worse. The motel in Newark smelled like disinfectant and desperation. The bedspread had a cigarette burn in the corner. The wallpaper was peeling. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my reflection in the mirror above the dresser. I looked hollow. I looked like a woman who'd forgotten how to be a person. I was 38 years old, and I had nothing. No money, no home, no career. I'd given up my marketing job when Richard insisted his wife shouldn't work. No dignity, just 2 suitcases and a shattered sense of self. I spent the first 2 days in that room crying. I didn't eat. I barely slept. I kept replaying the divorce proceedings in my head, the way Richard's lawyer painted me as a gold digger, a manipulator, someone who contributed nothing to the marriage. The judge believed every word. I walked away with nothing. Not even alimony. Richard's team had been too thorough. On the 3rd day, I forced myself to shower, to eat a granola bar from the vending machine downstairs, to think about what came next. I had no answers, but I knew I couldn't stay in that room forever. That's when she appeared. I was sitting in the motel parking lot, staring at my phone, debating whether to call my father one more time, when a black Mercedes pulled up next to me. The window rolled down, and a woman in her 50s, elegant and composed, leaned out. "Excuse me," she said. Her voice was smooth, professional. "Are you Sophia Hartfield?" I froze. My first thought was reporter. My second was process server. I didn't answer. "I'm not here to hurt you," she continued. "My name is Clara Mendez. I'm an attorney. I've been looking for you for 3 days. I don't have money for a lawyer," I said flatly, "and I'm not signing anything else. I'm not here about the divorce." She opened her car door and stepped out. She wore a charcoal suit, heels that probably cost more than my motel room, and carried a leather briefcase. "I'm here about your great uncle, Samuel Hartfield." I blinked. Samuel. I hadn't thought about him in years. He was my grandfather's brother, estranged from the family decades ago. I met him once, maybe twice, at family gatherings when I was a child. He was quiet, intense, the kind of man who watched everyone from the corner of the room. I remembered my father saying Samuel was difficult and resentful. That was all I knew. "What about him?" I asked. Clara's expression softened. "He passed away 2 weeks ago. And he left you everything." The words didn't make sense. I stared at her, waiting for the punchline. "Everything," she repeated. "His mansion in Manhattan, his collection of vintage cars, his investment portfolio. His estate is valued at $60 million, Sophia, and it's yours." I laughed. I actually laughed. It was a bitter, broken sound. "That's not possible. I barely knew him." "He knew you." Clara reached into her briefcase and pulled out a folder. "He's been watching you for years. He knew about your marriage, your divorce. He knew what Richard did to you. And he wanted you to have a second chance." My hands were shaking again. I took the folder, opened it, and saw documents with my name. Legal papers, deeds, account statements with numbers I couldn't process. "This is real," I whispered. "It's real." For the first time in weeks, I felt something other than despair. Hope. Fragile, terrifying hope. "There's a condition," Clara said. Of course there was. "You have to live in the mansion for 6 months, alone. You can't sell anything during that time. And at the end of the 6 months, if you've honored the terms, the estate becomes yours in full." "That's it?" I asked. It seemed too easy. Clara hesitated. "There's more, but I'll explain everything once you're settled. The important thing is that you accept." "Do you?" I looked at her, at the folder in my hands, at the motel behind me with its peeling paint and broken dreams. "Yes," I said. "I accept." The mansion was in the Upper East Side, tucked away on a tree-lined street that felt frozen in time. It was massive, 4 stories of dark brick and iron gates, with windows that looked like eyes watching the world pass by. Clara handed me the keys and told me she'd be in touch. I stood on the front steps for a long time before I went inside. The interior was dim, heavy with the smell of old wood and closed rooms. The furniture was covered in white sheets, like ghosts waiting to be uncovered. The floors were marble, the ceilings impossibly high. There were paintings on the walls, expensive ones, and a chandelier in the foyer that caught the afternoon light and scattered it across the room. It was beautiful, and it was terrifying. I walked through the room slowly, my footsteps echoing. The kitchen was enormous, untouched. The library was filled with books I'd never read. The master bedroom had a 4-poster bed and a view of the city skyline. I sat on the bed and cried again. But this time, it wasn't despair. It was disbelief, gratitude, confusion. Why me? I found the answer an hour later, in the study on the 3rd floor. There was a desk by the window, and on it, a sealed envelope with my name written in elegant script. I opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a letter. "Sophia, you don't know me." "Not really. But I've known you your entire life. I've watched you grow into a woman of grace and strength, even when the people around you tried to diminish you. I've watched you endure a marriage that should have broken you. I've watched you survive a family that never deserved you. You're reading this because I'm gone, and because I want you to have what I built, not because you need saving, but because you deserve a foundation to rebuild on. But I need you to understand something. This inheritance isn't just money. It's a test. The people who hurt you, who ignored you, who took you for granted, they will come for this. They will try to take it from you. They will try to break you again. When they do, You'll have to decide who you really are. You were always stronger than they told you. I hope you remember that. Samuel. I read the letter 3 times. My chest felt tight, my vision blurred with tears. He'd been watching me all those years, and he'd seen something in me that no one else had. I folded the letter carefully and placed it back on the desk. Then I stood, walked to the window, and looked out at the city below. For the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was drowning. I felt like I was standing on the edge of something new, something dangerous, something mine, and I had no idea what was coming next. The first week in the mansion was silent, painfully, beautifully silent. I walked through the rooms like a stranger learning a new language. I uncovered furniture, opened curtains, let light pour into spaces that had been dark for too long. I found a closet full of women's clothing in the guest room, designer pieces from the 40s and 50s, perfectly preserved. Samuel's mother's things, maybe. Or a lover's. I didn't know. But they fit me almost perfectly, and I wore them because my own clothes felt like costumes from a life I no longer recognized. I slept in the master bedroom. I cooked simple meals in the enormous kitchen. I read books from the library. I avoided mirrors because every time I looked at myself, I saw someone I was still learning to be. But the silence didn't last. On day 8, the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. Clara had told me she'd check in after 2 weeks. I walked to the front door slowly, my heart already racing with an instinct I couldn't name. Through the peephole, I saw my sister, Diane. She was standing on the steps in a cream-colored coat, her hair perfectly styled, her expression carefully neutral. She looked like she'd come from brunch. She looked like she belonged in this neighborhood. I opened the door. "Sophia," she said, her voice soft, almost fragile. "Oh my God, Sophia." Before I could respond, she threw her arms around me. I stood there, frozen, as she pressed her face against my shoulder and made a sound that might have been a sob. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry I didn't call you back. I was scared. I didn't know what to say. But when I heard about Uncle Samuel..." She pulled back, her eyes shining with tears. I couldn't stay away anymore. I should have felt relief. I should have felt grateful. But all I felt was cold suspicion settling in my chest like ice. "How did you know where I was?" I asked. Diane blinked. "What?" "I didn't tell anyone I was here. Clara said the inheritance was private. So how did you know?" Her face shifted, just slightly. The tears were still there, but something behind them hardened. "I called Clara's office," she said. "I told them I was your sister, that I needed to find you. They gave me the address." That was a lie. Clara wouldn't give out my location. But I didn't say that. I just stepped back and let Diane inside. She walked through the foyer slowly, her eyes taking in everything. The chandelier, the paintings, the marble floors. She ran her fingers along the banister of the staircase. "This place is incredible," she said. "I can't believe Uncle Samuel had all this." "You never met him," I said. "Neither did you." "Not really." She turned to me, her expression careful. "But family is family, right? And he clearly wanted to take care of us. He left it to me, Diane, not us." Her smile faltered. "Of course. I didn't mean..." She laughed lightly, like I'd misunderstood her. "I'm just saying, it's amazing that you have this now. After everything with Richard. It's like fate, you know?" I didn't answer. I walked into the living room, and she followed. "So what are you going to do with it?" she asked, sitting down on the sofa like she lived here. "Are you going to sell? You could get so much money for this place. You could travel, start over somewhere new." "I can't sell, not for 6 months." "Why not?" I hesitated. I hadn't told anyone about the conditions of the will. But Diane was my sister, and part of me, the part that still remembered us as children, playing in the backyard, sharing secrets, wanted to trust her. "It's part of the inheritance terms," I said. "I have to live here for 6 months, alone. If I break the conditions, I lose everything." Diane's eyes widened. "That's insane. Why would he do that?" "I don't know." She leaned forward, her voice dropping. "Sophia, you have to be careful. People are going to come after this. Lawyers, distant relatives, people claiming Samuel owed them money. You need to protect yourself. I have Clara. Clara's just a lawyer. She doesn't care about you. Not like I do." Diane reached out and took my hand. Her skin was warm, her grip tight. "You need family right now. Let me help you." "Help me how?" "I don't know. Whatever you need. I can stay here with you, keep you company, make sure you're safe." There it was, the ask, the reason she was here. "I have to live here alone," I said. "That's the condition." Diane's face tightened. "That's ridiculous. You shouldn't have to be alone right now. You've been through so much." "I'll be fine. Sophia, I'll be fine." She stared at me for a long moment. Then she stood, smoothing her coat. "Okay," she said. Her voice was clipped now, the warmth gone. "But if you change your mind, call me. I'm here for you. I always have been." That was the second lie of the day. She left without hugging me goodbye. 2 days later, my father showed up. Gerald Hartfield was a tall man, with silver hair and a face that never smiled unless there was money involved. He worked in private equity, played golf with senators, and treated his children like investments that hadn't paid off. I hadn't seen him since the divorce. He didn't come to court, didn't call, didn't send a card. But he was standing on my doorstep now, holding a bottle of expensive scotch. "Sophia," he said, "may I come in?" I should have said no. But I was raised to be polite, to accommodate, to say yes, even when every instinct screamed otherwise. I let him in. He walked through the mansion the same way Diane had, his eyes cataloging value. He stopped in front of a painting in the hallway, an original Monet I'd learned from the inventory Clara left me. "Samuel always had taste," he said. "I'll give him that." "You didn't come here to talk about art," I said. He turned to me, his expression unreadable. "No, I came to talk about family." "We haven't been family in a long time, Dad." "That's not fair." "Isn't it?" My voice was sharper than I intended. "You didn't return my calls during the divorce. You didn't offer to help. You told me I should have been smarter, should have protected myself better. I was trying to teach you a lesson." "What lesson? That I'm on my own?" He sighed, setting the scotch down on a side table. "Sophia, I came here because I'm concerned. This inheritance, it's complicated. Samuel wasn't a stable man. He cut ties with the family decades ago. We don't know what kind of debts he left behind, what kind of legal trouble might come with this estate. Clara vetted everything. It's clean. Clara works for Samuel's interests, not yours. She works for me now." Gerald's jaw tightened. "You're being naive. This kind of wealth comes with responsibilities. You don't understand the world you're stepping into. Then explain it to me." He looked at me like I was a child again. "Samuel left you this money to make a point, to punish the family for rejecting him. But you're the one who's going to suffer for it. People will challenge the will. They'll dig into your life, your marriage, your mistakes. They'll try to prove you're unfit to inherit. And if you fight them alone, you'll lose. So what do you want me to do? Let me help you. Let me bring in my legal team. We'll set up a trust, protect the assets, make sure you're taken care of. And you'll take a percentage for your trouble." His face hardened. "I'm your father. You haven't acted like it in years. I'm trying to now. No. I stood, my hands shaking but my voice steady. You're trying to control this, just like you've tried to control everything else in my life. But this is mine. Samuel left it to me. Not you. Not Diane. Me. Gerald stared at me for a long moment. Then he picked up the scotch and walked to the door. You're making a mistake, he said. And when this falls apart, don't come crying to me. He left. The door closed behind him with a heavy thud, and I realized something. I didn't feel sad. I felt relieved. The third visitor came a week later. Marcus Hartfield, my cousin. Samuel's great-nephew on the other side of the family. He didn't knock. He rang the doorbell 15 times in a row until I opened the door, furious. What the hell? Marcus? He was drunk. I could smell it on him before he even spoke. His shirt was untucked, his tie loosened, his eyes bloodshot. You, he said, pointing at me. You think you're so special, don't you? Go home, Marcus. This should have been mine. He shoved past me into the foyer. Samuel was my great-uncle, too. I'm the oldest male in the family. This house, this money, it should have gone to me. He didn't want you to have it. Because of you. He spun around, his face twisted with rage. You poisoned him against us. You manipulated him. I barely knew him. Liar. He grabbed a vase from the side table and threw it against the wall. It shattered, pieces scattering across the marble floor. You're just like your mother. Always playing the victim. Always taking what doesn't belong to you. My heart was pounding. I backed toward the door, calculating how fast I could run, whether I could reach my phone. Get out, I said. I'm not going anywhere. This is my house. It's not. And if you don't leave, I'm calling the police. He laughed. Go ahead, call them. Tell them your family came to visit. They'll love that story. He took a step toward me. That's when I saw it. The drawer in the console table near the door was slightly open, and inside, barely visible, was the grip of a gun. Samuel's gun. Clara had mentioned it during the inventory. Old, probably not even loaded. But Marcus didn't know that. I moved quickly, pulling the drawer open and grabbing the weapon. It was heavier than I expected, cold and solid in my hand. Marcus froze. Get out, I said again. He stared at the gun, then at me. Then he started laughing. You don't have the guts, he said. My finger rested near the trigger. My hands weren't shaking anymore. Try me. For a moment, we just stood there. The air between us felt electric, dangerous. Then Marcus turned and walked out. I slammed the door behind him, locked it, and sank to the floor, the gun still in my hand. I sat there for an hour before I could move again. Clara came the next morning. I called her after Marcus left, told her everything. She arrived with coffee and a folder full of documents. We need to talk, she said. We sat in the library. I was exhausted, my nerves frayed, my hands still trembling slightly. There's something I didn't tell you, Clara began. About the conditions of the will. My stomach dropped. What? The 6 months in the mansion. That's not just about you living here. It's about testing you. Samuel wanted to see if you could withstand your family. If you could resist their manipulation, their greed, their attempts to take what's yours. Why? Clara hesitated. Because Samuel knew what they were. He knew they'd come for you. And he wanted to make sure you were strong enough to fight back. What happens if I fail? If you give in? If you sign away any part of the estate? If you leave the mansion before the 6 months are up? If you let them manipulate you into changing the terms? The entire inheritance goes to charity. All of it. I stared at her. Does my family know this? They do now. I was legally required to inform them yesterday. So they're going to come after me even harder. Yes. I felt sick. Why didn't he just leave me the money? Why make it a game? Clara's expression softened. Because he didn't want you to just survive, Sophia. He wanted you to become the woman he always believed you could be. Someone who doesn't bend. Someone who doesn't break. I'm not that person. You held a gun to your cousin's face last night. You sent him running. I think you're closer than you realize. I didn't know what to say to that. Clara stood, handing me the folder. These are restraining order forms. I'll file them today against Marcus. But Diane and your father, they're going to be harder to deal with. They won't break the law. They'll just try to break you. How do I stop them? You survive. You stay here. You hold your ground. She paused at the door. And you remember that Samuel chose you for a reason. She left. I opened the folder. Inside were legal documents, contracts, letters, and at the bottom another envelope with my name. I opened it. Sophia, if you're reading this, they've already started. Your family. The people who should have loved you unconditionally but loved their pride more. I know them. I was one of them once. Or at least I tried to be. But they rejected me. Called me illegitimate. Treated me like I didn't exist. So I built my own empire. And I've been watching them ever since. I've also been watching you. Watching them do to you what they did to me. This inheritance isn't charity. It's a mirror. It will show you who they really are. And more importantly, it will show you who you really are. Don't let them win. Samuel Thorey. I folded the letter carefully. Then I walked upstairs, locked every door, and closed every curtain. Because I knew they weren't done, and neither was I. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing Marcus's voice. You don't have the guts. I kept seeing Diane's fake tears, my father's cold dismissal. I thought about calling someone, a friend, a therapist, anyone. But I had no one. So I got up, walked down to the library, and started searching through Samuel's books. I needed to understand him, needed to know why he chose me. I found it in the third shelf from the bottom. A photo album, leather-bound and worn. Inside were pictures I'd never seen before. Samuel as a young man, standing outside this very mansion. Samuel with a woman who looked like my grandmother. Samuel holding a baby. And then, near the back, a photograph that made my breath catch. It was me. I was maybe 5 years old, sitting in a garden somewhere, laughing at something off camera. Someone had drawn a heart in the corner of the photo in red ink. He'd been watching me since I was a child. I felt a chill run down my spine. The next page had more photos. Me at my high school graduation. Me on my wedding day, standing next to Richard. Me at a charity gala 3 years ago. He'd been documenting my life. I should have felt violated, scared. But all I felt was seen. For the first time in my life, someone had been paying attention. I closed the album and held it against my chest. Thank you, I whispered to the empty room, and somewhere, in the silence, I imagined him answering back. The doorbell rang again at midnight. I was in bed, half asleep when I heard it. A single sharp ring. I got up, walked to the window, and looked down at the front steps. No one was there. But on the doorstep, illuminated by the porch light, was a single white envelope. I went downstairs, my heart pounding, and opened the door carefully. The envelope was thick, expensive paper. My name was written on the front in elegant script. I opened it. Inside was a note. 2 sentences. We know what you inherited, and we know how to take it from you. No signature. I looked up and down the empty street. Nothing. I closed the door, locked it, and stood there in the dark hallway, the note trembling in my hand. They were coming for me, and I had 5 months left to survive. The threatening note changed everything. I stopped sleeping through the night. Every creak of the old house felt like footsteps. Every shadow looked like someone watching. I installed security cameras with Clara's help, changed the locks, started keeping Samuel's gun loaded in the drawer beside my bed. I was learning to live like prey, but I was also learning to live like a predator. 3 weeks after the note arrived, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Sophia Hartfield? A woman's voice, professional, neutral. This is Jennifer Walsh from the New York Observer. I'm doing a piece on contested inheritances in wealthy families. I'd love to get your perspective on... I hung up. They called back. I blocked the number. Then came the emails. The social media messages. Reporters digging into my divorce, my past, my relationship with Samuel. Someone had leaked the story, and now I was news again. Disgraced socialite inherits fortune, family cries foul. Mystery uncle leaves, everything to estranged niece, legal battle brewing. Sophia Hartfield's second act. Luck or manipulation? I stopped reading after the third article, but I couldn't stop them from being written. Clara warned me this would happen. They're trying to paint you as undeserving, she said during one of our weekly calls. They want public opinion on their side before they make their legal move. What legal move? They're going to challenge the will. Claim Samuel wasn't of sound mind when he wrote it, that you manipulated him somehow. I never even spoke to him. They'll find a way to make it look like you did. That's how these things work. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to run, but I didn't. I stayed. Because leaving meant losing. And I was done losing. The real attack came on a Tuesday afternoon in November. I was in the kitchen making tea when the doorbell rang. Through the security camera, I saw 3 people. Marcus, Diane, and a man I didn't recognize in an expensive suit. I almost didn't open the door. But something in me, maybe anger, maybe curiosity, made me unlock it. Sophia, Diane said. Her voice was different now. Colder, no more fake warmth. We need to talk. I have nothing to say to you. Then listen. Marcus stepped forward. He looked sober this time, calculated. This is Daniel Friedman. He's our attorney. We're filing a motion to contest the will. My stomach dropped, but I kept my face neutral. On what grounds? Undue influence, Daniel said smoothly. Samuel Hartfield was 83 years old when he wrote this will. He was isolated, ill, and clearly not thinking straight. You took advantage of his mental state to manipulate him into leaving you his estate. I never even met with him. Can you prove that? I stared at him. Can you prove I did? Daniel smiled. It was the smile of someone who'd already won. We have testimony from a former caretaker who says you visited Samuel multiple times in the months before his death. That you brought him gifts. Spent hours alone with him. Made promises. That's a lie. Is it? Because we also have phone records showing repeated calls between your number and his residence. My heart was pounding. I never called him. Then how do you explain the records? I couldn't, because I didn't know what records he was talking about. But I knew they were fabricated. They had to be. Diane stepped forward, her expression almost pitying. Sophia, this doesn't have to be ugly. We're willing to settle. You keep the mansion, 20% of the liquid assets. We split the rest. Everyone walks away happy. I'm not giving you anything. Then we'll take everything. Marcus's voice was low, threatening. We have lawyers. We have money. We have time. You think you can fight us? You're broke, Sophia. Your ex-husband destroyed you. You have nothing except what Samuel left you, and we're going to prove you don't deserve it. Get off my property. This isn't your property, Marcus said. Not yet, I slammed the door in their faces. Then I collapsed against it, my hands shaking, my breath coming in short gasps. They were going to take it. They were going to take everything. I called Clara. "They were here," I said, my voice breaking. "They're filing a challenge. They have fake evidence, fake testimony." "Clara, I don't know how to fight this." "Yes, you do." Her voice was calm, steady. "You know the truth. And I have something that will help you prove it." "What?" "Come to my office, tomorrow. There's something Samuel left for you. Something I wasn't allowed to give you until your family made their move." "What is it?" "You'll see." Clara's office was in Midtown, a sleek high-rise with marble floors and floor-to-ceiling windows. She met me in a private conference room, a large box sitting on the table between us. "Samuel knew they'd come after you," Clara said. "He knew they'd lie, cheat, fabricate evidence. So he prepared." She opened the box. Inside were files, dozens of them. Photographs, legal documents, recordings. "What is this?" I asked. "Samuel's insurance policy." Clara pulled out a folder and handed it to me. "He spent the last 10 years of his life documenting every interaction he had with your family. Every phone call, every threat, every lie." I opened the folder. Inside were transcripts of phone calls between Samuel and Gerald. In them, Gerald demanded money, threatened lawsuits, called Samuel a bastard who didn't deserve the Hartfield name. There were emails from Marcus, asking for loans he never repaid, making promises he never kept. There were letters from Diane, saccharine and manipulative, asking for help with her mortgage, her credit cards, her failed business ventures. "They all came to him begging," Clara said, "and he refused them every time. He kept every piece of evidence, because he knew that one day they'd try to destroy whoever he left his fortune to." I felt something fierce and hot rising in my chest. Why didn't he just cut them off completely? He did, but he wanted you to have the ammunition to do the same, to expose them if you needed to. "Can we use this in court?" "Better." Clara pulled out another folder. "We can use it everywhere." I spent the next 2 weeks preparing. Clara and I went through every document, every recording, every piece of evidence Samuel had collected. We built a case not just for the will's validity, but for my family's complete moral bankruptcy. And then we went public. I called a press conference. Clara advised against it, said it was risky, but I didn't care anymore. I was done hiding. The room was packed. Reporters, cameras, microphones. I sat at a table with Clara beside me, a folder in front of me, my hands folded calmly even though my heart was racing. "My name is Sophia Hartfield," I began, "and I'm here to tell you the truth about my family." I opened the folder. "For the past month, my family has accused me of manipulating my great-uncle Samuel Hartfield into leaving me his estate. They've claimed I took advantage of an elderly man, that I lied, that I don't deserve what he left me." I paused. "They're lying." I pulled out the first document. This is a transcript of a phone call between Samuel Hartfield and my father, Gerald Hartfield, from 2 years ago. In it, my father threatens to contest Samuel's will if he doesn't receive a payout immediately. Samuel refused. Murmurs rippled through the room. I pulled out another document. This is an email from my cousin Marcus Hartfield, asking Samuel for $300,000 to cover gambling debts. Samuel refused. More murmurs. This is a letter from my sister Diane, asking for money to save her business after she'd already borrowed and failed to repay over $500,000. I looked directly at the cameras. My family didn't care about Samuel when he was alive. They saw him as a wallet, a resource, and when he refused to fund their failures, they abandoned him. I pulled out the final document. This is Samuel's will. In it, he states clearly that he is of sound mind, that he has not been influenced or coerced, and that he is leaving his estate to me because I am the only member of this family who never asked him for anything. I closed the folder. I didn't manipulate him. I didn't trick him. I didn't even know him. But he knew me. He watched me endure a marriage that destroyed my sense of self. He watched my family turn their backs on me when I needed them most. And he decided I deserved a second chance. My voice cracked slightly, but I didn't stop. My family is trying to take that from me. Not because they loved Samuel, not because they deserve his legacy, but because they can't stand the idea that someone they look down on might rise above them. I stood. I'm not giving them anything, and I'm going to fight them with everything I have. The room erupted with questions, but I walked out, Clara beside me, my head held high. The story went viral. Within 24 hours, every major outlet had picked it up. Opinion pieces flooded in, some supporting me, some calling me opportunistic. But the evidence was undeniable. Diane called me. I didn't answer. Gerald sent an email. I deleted it. Marcus tried to show up at the mansion. The security company I'd hired turned him away. And then, a week later, their lawyer withdrew the challenge to the will. Clara called me with the news. They don't have a case anymore. The evidence you presented destroyed their credibility. It's over. Sophia, you won. I should have felt relief, joy, victory. But all I felt was exhausted. There's one more thing, Clara said. Can you come to the office? There's something else Samuel left for you. The conference room looked the same as before, but this time there was a single envelope on the table. Samuel left instructions that you were only to receive this after the legal battle was resolved, Clara said. I picked up the envelope. My name was on the front in Samuel's handwriting. I opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a letter and a photograph. The photograph was old, faded. It showed a young woman with dark hair and bright eyes, standing in a garden, laughing. She looked like me. I turned it over. On the back in faded ink, Eleanor, 1965. My mother. I looked at Clara. I don't understand. She took a breath. Samuel wasn't just your great-uncle, Sophia. He was your biological father. The room tilted. What? Your mother and Samuel had a brief relationship before she married Gerald. She got pregnant. Samuel wanted to be part of your life, but your mother refused. She was young, scared of scandal. She married Gerald quickly, passed you off as his daughter. Samuel agreed to stay away, but he never stopped watching over you. I couldn't breathe. Does Gerald know? He's always known. That's why he never loved you the way he should have. You weren't his blood. You were a reminder of your mother's betrayal. Tears streamed down my face. Clara continued gently. Samuel couldn't be your father openly, but he made sure you'd never be without a foundation. This inheritance isn't just money, Sophia. It's his way of finally taking care of you. I opened the letter, my hands shaking. Sophia, if you're reading this, you've survived them. I'm proud of you. I'm sorry I couldn't be your father the way I wanted to be. I'm sorry you grew up feeling unwanted, unloved. I'm sorry I watched from the shadows instead of stepping into the light. But I saw you. Every moment, every struggle, every triumph. You were never alone. This inheritance is yours because you earned it. Not through blood, not through manipulation, but through the simple act of surviving in a family that never deserved you. Build something beautiful with it. Build something that matters, and know that I loved you. Always. Samuel. I folded the letter carefully and pressed it against my chest. For the first time since Richard destroyed my life, I felt whole. 6 months passed. I stayed in the mansion for the full term, honoring Samuel's conditions. And when the clock ran out, I didn't leave. I transformed the space into something new. The first floor became offices. The second floor, conference rooms. The third and fourth floors remained private. my sanctuary. I launched Hartfield Investments, a holding company dedicated to funding startups led by women. Women who'd been overlooked, dismissed, told they weren't enough. Women like me. Within a year, we'd funded 15 companies. Within 2 years, 3 of them had gone public. I appeared on the cover of Forbes, then Fortune, then Bloomberg Businessweek. "How did you do it?" an interviewer asked during a podcast. "How did you go from losing everything to building an empire?" I smiled. I stopped waiting for permission to take up space. One morning, I was reviewing investment proposals when my assistant buzzed in. "There's someone here to see you. He says it's important." "Who?" "Richard Hartfield." My blood ran cold. "Send him in." Richard walked into my office looking diminished. His suit was off the rack. His shoes were scuffed. He'd aged in the 2 years since I'd seen him, lines around his eyes, gray in his hair. He looked small. "Sophia," he said, "you look incredible." I didn't stand, didn't smile. "What do you want, Richard?" I wanted to apologize for everything. The divorce, the lawyers, the way I treated you. I was cruel. I was wrong. "Yes, you were." He shifted uncomfortably. "I've been following your success. You've done amazing things. I always knew you were capable of more than what? More than being your accessory?" He flinched. "I deserve that. You deserve a lot more than that." Silence stretched between us. "I'm in trouble, Sophia. The business failed. Vanessa left. I'm drowning in debt. I need help." There it was. The real reason he came. "You want money. A loan. I'll pay you back, I swear." I leaned back in my chair and studied him. This man who'd humiliated me, who'd torn apart my life, who'd made me believe I was worthless. And now he was begging. "No," I said simply. His face crumpled. "Sophia, please. I have nowhere else to turn. You should have thought of that before you destroyed me. I made a mistake. You made a choice. I stood. And now I'm making mine. Get out of my office, Richard, and don't come back." He stared at me, stunned. Then he turned and walked out. I watched him go, waiting for the satisfaction, the vindication. But all I felt was indifferent. He didn't matter anymore. That evening I stood in Samuel's study, my study now, looking out at the Manhattan skyline. On my desk was the morning's Wall Street Journal. My face was on the front page of the business section. The headline read, "Sophia Hartfield, the Phoenix of Wall Street." Below it, they'd included a quote from my recent interview. "Some build empires with power. I built mine with purpose." I traced my fingers over the words. Behind me, on the wall, I'd framed Samuel's final letter, and beside it, the photograph of my mother. I thought about Gerald, who never loved me, about Diane, who envied me, about Marcus, who hated me, about Richard, who discarded me. I thought about every person who'd told me I wasn't enough, and I smiled, because I'd proven them all wrong. Not by becoming like them, not by taking revenge, but by building something they could never touch. I walked to the window and pressed my hand against the glass, feeling the cool surface against my palm. Somewhere out there, in the city that had almost destroyed me, there were women who felt the way I once did, broken, discarded, invisible, and I was going to find them. I was going to give them what Samuel gave me. Not just money, but permission. Permission to take up space. Permission to fight back. Permission to build something beautiful from the ashes of their old lives. I picked up my phone and called Clara. "I want to start a foundation," I said. "For women leaving abusive marriages. Legal support, financial assistance, housing. That's a beautiful idea. I'm calling it the Eleanor Hartfield Foundation." After my mother. Clara's voice softened. Samuel would love that. I looked at his letter on the wall. I know, I said. 5 years later, I sat in the same study, now filled with photographs of the women we'd helped. Success stories, new beginnings. On my desk was a handwritten note from one of them. You saved my life, not with money, with hope. Thank you for showing me I could be more than what they said I was. I folded it carefully and added it to the box where I kept them all. Outside, the sun was setting over Manhattan, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. I thought about the woman I used to be, the one who stood on those mansion steps with 2 suitcases and a broken heart. She felt like a stranger now. I'd buried her, and from her ashes, I'd become someone new, someone stronger, someone freer, someone who didn't need permission to exist. I stood and walked to the window one last time, looking out at the city I'd conquered. And I whispered the words I wished someone had told me years ago. You were always enough. The city lights flickered on, one by one, like stars. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I was exactly where I belonged. I didn't inherit just money. I inherited the one thing my family never gave me, the permission to be free. And I was never giving that back.